fucking go.
When it was first announced that Hugh Jackman would reprise his role as Wolverine alongside Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool 3, it was met with the usual superhero fan response of vitriolic outrage. A lot of people went online to loudly voice their distaste with Marvel's decision to supposedly undo the beautiful finality of Logan. But I don't agree with that. Even if Deadpool and Wolverine sucks, and I mean royally sucks, Fantastic style, I don't think it'll undermine Logan. Even if it turns Wolverine into Last Jedi Luke Skywalker, shitting on everything we love about the character, it wouldn't ruin Logan. Logan will always be there. Great films can mutually coexist with shit films. Never Say Never Again doesn't ruin Goldfinger. The Flash doesn't ruin Tim Burton's Batman. Logan is a perfect standalone superhero epic that arrived at a time when the genre was all about tying into larger universes and setting up multi-movie storylines. It was marketed on two major selling points. It was the first R-rated Wolverine film and one of the first R-rated comic book films, and it marked Hugh Jackman's final appearance, or so it seemed, in the iconic role he'd been playing for almost 2 decades. The second one actually started a trend, with Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark, Daniel Craig's James Bond, and Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones all enjoying their final moment in the sun in the years that followed. Those subsequent franchise departures have ranged from absolutely heartbreaking like Iron Man to utterly unnecessary like Indy, but Logan remains the gold standard. So before Deadpool and Wolverine apparently ruins it, let's take a look back at Wolverine's bittersweet swan song, Logan.
Guys, seriously, you don't want to do this.
Take them out.
The opening scene of Logan sets the table perfectly. It's like a proof of concept short introducing the feature, the tone, the characterization, the main internal conflict. This opening scene introduces us to Old Man Logan. It shows us that Wolverine has started to age as the Weapon X is wearing off, his powers are getting slower, and he looks like shit. But it also shows us that he can still be a fucking badass when he's got his back against the wall. And when he finally unleashes his adamantium-clawed wrath against the gang trying to strip his limo for parts, director James Mangold makes up for 17 years of bloodless PG-13 bullshit with 5 minutes of relentless The Raid-style hard R brutality. This opening tells us this won't be a comic book movie. It's more like No Country for Old Mutants. Once the tone has been established and Old Man Logan is shown to be at the very end of his road, a subtly expositional montage succinctly sets the scene. Logan is scraping by as a limo driver near the Mexican border. This setting not only introduces the genre framework of a gritty neo-western, it also introduces the film's political subtext. Logan came out in 2017 when Trump had just taken office and the whole build the wall thing still seemed like a real possibility. As Logan drives a bunch of white kids to prom and he goes past the border, they all chant USA, USA from the sunroof. This is just a brief moment of brazen xenophobia, but it immediately politicizes the film. It plants us in the extreme, dystopian, near-future version of Trump's America. Although that kind of politicization of a big studio movie was common in the new Hollywood 70s, it's a risk that usually wouldn't be allowed in a mega-budget 21st century franchise tentpole seeking the biggest possible global audience. This scene reminds us that Logan's R rating doesn't just allow for more violence and swearing, it also allows the filmmakers to take those risks. Logan is miserable and desperate. He's living off the grid with Professor X, whose brain, the most powerful brain in the world, is deteriorating due to dementia, and the only other surviving mutant, Caliban. He's trying to scrape together enough cash to buy a sailboat before the government or hired assassins track them down. This sequence plays almost like a really fucked up sitcom, with Charles as the grumpy old dad, Caliban as the fussy, quirky roommate, and Logan as the Michael Bluth everyman struggling to keep them all together. When Laura comes along, she becomes the crazy, unpredictable kid like Modern Family's Lily or Malcolm in the Middle's Dewey.
That's enough. These two.
Not okay.
Logan's relationship with Charles is a really realistic portrayal of what it's like to take care of an elderly parent with dementia. You do it because you love them, but the relationship becomes depersonalized as they become more and more confused and recognize less and less. It gets to a point where the kid is so fed up with taking their parent to the toilet and listening to their incoherent ramblings that they pretty much just tune them out. It's especially frustrating when Charles is actually making sense, like when he's telling Logan he has to go back for Laura, but Logan's default is just to ignore him. It's really tragic, and it's played in all its raw honesty, the good, the bad, and the ugly, by Jackman and Patrick Stewart. If I was one of the exclusive few insiders who rig the Oscars, I would have put Logan up for more than just Best Adapted Screenplay. I would have given Jackman a nomination for Best Actor, Stewart a nomination for Best Supporting Actor, and Daphne Keane a nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Keane is simultaneously playing a cold-blooded killer and an orphan desperately clinging to the only father figure she's ever known, and she plays both just as authentically, with next to no dialogue to rely on. As a side note, Boyd Holbrook is fine as the leader of the Reavers, but I think that role would have been 10 times more memorable if Walton Goggins had played it. Holbrook plays him more like Clarence Worley than the slick southern creep he's supposed to be. Goggins would have nailed that. Logan's first big set piece kicks off when the Reavers arrive at Wolverine's hideout and he has to escape with Charles, and reluctantly with Laura too. Laura gets one of the most badass action hero introductions I've ever seen. An army of giant henchmen come after her and she just casually eats her cereal until they're standing right behind her. Then she effortlessly fucks them all up and comes out with one of their decapitated heads. Keane's performance really sells it. She's just a little kid, but she's believably as deadly and cold-hearted as Charles Bronson or Lee Marvin. As the rest of the Reavers come after her, she keeps fucking up all these guys. Then Logan gets in on the action, then Laura reveals she has claws in her feet. It's fucking awesome. There's a great subversion of the smash through the fence trope as Logan drives into a fence, and not only does the fence not break, now they've got fence in their bumper. Logan and his dependents escape the convoy with a modern-day spin on the Western genre's escape over the train tracks trope. This is just a great action sequence all around. It's wild, it's fun, it's shocking, it's unpredictable. It's everything that good cinematic action should be. This is the kind of stuff you get when you let directors direct their own action instead of making it a second unit assignment. Even though Logan deconstructs the superhero genre and breaks down the myth in a real-world setting, it also delivers the fucking goods and then some. One of the only things that takes you out of the film is the video made by the nurse who was watching over Laura. Logan watches this video to learn about where Laura came from and what's at stake, and also to tell all that stuff to the audience. As it turns out, in addition to being a nurse at a secret facility, this woman was also a world-class documentarian.
The company made their bodies into weapons. Tried to teach them to kill, but they did not want to fight.
It's pretty distracting to think about all the editing and the coverage and the voiceover narration that went into creating this video. But that's forgivable because it's all crucial exposition. It sets up the possibility of a new generation of mutants who will be doomed to extinction if Logan doesn't help them. It gives Logan something he hasn't had in a long fucking time: hope. Laura becomes a symbol of that hope, like Ellie in The Last of Us or Key in Children of Men. Logan may have used Old Man Logan as a jumping off point to explore an aging Wolverine in a post-apocalyptic future, but Mangold didn't really look to the comics for inspiration. Instead, he looked to other movies. Logan is a superhero mishmash of two of the greatest films ever made. The theme of an anti-hero trying and failing to outrun his violent past is taken from the classic western Shane, while the estranged father-daughter road trip story is borrowed from Peter Bogdanovich's heartfelt masterpiece Paper Moon. Obviously, a father and daughter bonding over selling fake Bibles to widows is very different than a father and daughter bonding over stabbing mercenaries to death with the indestructible claws that extend from their knuckles. But the emotional core is the same. A gruff father figure gradually becomes endeared to his newfound daughter. He initially sees the kid as a burden, but over the course of this journey, he eventually comes to love her more than anything else in the world. Thematically, Shane is about a gunslinger with a lot of blood on his hands who regrets the myth that he helped create. He tries and fails to move on from his history of violence and reluctantly returns to action to protect the people he cares about. Shane is one of the definitive westerns. It challenged the gunslinger archetype the way that Logan challenges the superhero archetype. Both Shane and Logan have to reconcile the belief that we shouldn't celebrate killers with the reality that we need people to protect us from the bad guys. Charles and Laura literally watch Shane in their hotel room in Oklahoma City halfway through Logan. Alan Ladd's iconic monologue from Shane's final scene, which moves both Charles and Laura when they watch the movie, perfectly encapsulates the themes that Mangold recontextualized into Logan.
Joey, there's no living with a killing. There's no going back from one. Right and wrong, it's a brand. A brand sticks. There's no going back.
Much like the eponymous gunslinger at the beginning of Shane, Wolverine goes into Logan with the baggage of decades worth of killing, not to mention all the traumatic events of the previous X-Men films. Early on in Logan, Caliban darkly reveals that Logan has an adamantium bullet that he's contemplating using to take his own life.
Found this in your pocket. Adamantium. If you are planning to blow your brains out, could you wait till you're out on the high seas and just mop these floors?
On the next leg of their road trip, Logan and co meet the Munson family. After Logan reluctantly pulls over to help them save their horses from being hit by self-driving trucks, the Munsons invite them to stay the night at their farm. And then the movie launches into a sort of mini remake of Shane as Logan helps the Munsons fend off a crooked land baron and his goons. This sequence hilariously and sweetly contrasts Logan's dysfunctional found family with a normal, healthy, non-mutant family life. It brings back some of their humanity. Over dinner conversation, Logan cracks a rare smile and seems genuinely happy for the first time in the movie. Logan has spent the whole film dwelling on the dark side of heroism and all the bad things that can come from it. But this family reminds him of why he did it in the first place. And then, of course, the whole family get murdered horrifically and the dark side rears its ugly head again. Charles's death is absolutely heartbreaking. And by the way, Professor X already returned to the big screen to get his neck snapped by the Scarlet Witch in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and it didn't ruin the tragic beauty of his death in Logan. Stewart nails the final monologue. He tells Logan, or at least he thinks it's Logan, that this was the best night he's had in a long time, but he doesn't think he deserves to have a good night, because he has vague memories of the devastation he caused on the day his brain was classified as a weapon of mass destruction. That's the clip I would have included on the Best Supporting Actor reel. Then this monologue is followed up by the tragic twist that he's not talking to Logan. He's talking to a cold-blooded clone of Logan who's there to kill him. When Logan finds Charles bleeding out from a claw wound, he repeats over and over, "It wasn't me."
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
He doesn't want his beloved father figure's final thought to be that he killed him. It was so poetic to use an evil clone of Wolverine as the villain. X-24 is the kind of remorseless killing machine that Wolvie was designed to be. He embraces the violent nature that Logan has been trying to overcome for years. Logan fighting X-24 visualizes his battle against his inner demons. It has the same uncompromising brutality as Arnold's fights with a more advanced Terminator in T2, but it also functions as a beautiful piece of symbolism. Most superhero films obsess over their villains. Who's going to be the villain? Who's Batman going to fight next? Who's Spider-Man going to fight next? But in Logan, the actual antagonists are secondary to Logan's internal conflicts. In Logan, the real villains are age, sickness, prejudice, remorse. Against all odds, Logan and Laura make it to their destination in North Dakota, and much to Logan's surprise, it actually is a safe haven for young mutants. While he's resting up, the kids give Logan a comic-accurate beard. This is how you do an Easter egg. It doesn't draw attention away from the story, and it works just as well as a standalone gag if you don't get the reference.
Not funny. That is not funny.
The final battle of Logan has really high stakes without putting the whole world at risk. There's no skybeam or alien race threatening to destroy Earth, just a private army coming to capture and kill the last remaining mutants. But we care so much about Laura and these kids, and we care so much about the future of mutant kind, that it feels as if the whole world is at stake. Logan makes the ultimate sacrifice to give the next generation of mutants a chance. He takes a lethal dose of mutant juice for one last stand against the Reavers. Not only is there a ticking clock, Logan only has a few minutes to live and he has a lot of people to save. It also makes him very easy to root for. The bad guys want to hurt children, Logan wants to stop them. It's very easy to pick a side. This is truly one of the best comic book movie finales of all time. It delivers everything you could possibly hope for. Logan and Laura fight together as a father-daughter superhero duo. Boyd Holbrook's death at the hands of the mutant kids is so gruesomely satisfying after all the shit he's done. And the payoff with the adamantium bullet, Laura using the bullet that Logan was going to use to kill himself, to kill X-24 and save him, is just chef's kiss. But it also hits on an emotional level. These final battles are usually just mindless spectacle, with superheroes firing beams of energy at each other as they run out the clock. But Logan's climactic battle culminates in an intimate, personal, human moment, like Cap and Iron Man's final fight in Captain America Civil War. And that brings us to Logan's death, the reason this was not only a great movie, but a fitting farewell to a legendary character who'd been around for 2 decades. Laura finally embraces Logan as her father, and he finally embraces her as his daughter. Keane is just as great at this weighty dramatic stuff as the badass action hero stuff, and Jackman of course nails the emotions of the death scene. With his dying breath, Logan encourages Laura not to become the weapon she was created to be.
Don't be what they made you.
The bittersweetness of Wolverine's death is summed up perfectly by his powerful last words.
Oh, so this is what it feels like.
An invincible Superman finally gets to feel what it's like to die.
Now you run on home to your mother and tell her
Tell her everything's all right.
there aren't any more guns in the valley.
There are no more guns in the valley.
As the mutant kids bury their savior, the movie calls back to Shane one last time. Laura quotes Shane's iconic "No more guns in the valley" monologue at Logan's graveside, hammering home the poignancy of the ending. All the X-Men might be dead, but Wolverine gave his life to make sure this next generation of mutants could live on. Before leaving to the bright future that Logan ensured for them, Laura turns the cross on Logan's grave into an X. This is not only a perfect ending for Wolverine's character, it would have been a perfect ending for the entire cinematic X-Men saga, if we ignore the Dark Phoenix New Mutants bullshit that would destroy the franchise over the next couple of years.
What have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away in the end.
Logan stands alongside The Dark Knight and Into the Spider-Verse as a true comic book movie masterpiece that's emotionally engaging and deeply cinematic enough to transcend the genre. There's no way Deadpool and Wolverine will be a better movie than Logan, but there's a good chance it will be a ton of fun. I can't wait to see Jackman's Wolverine clash with Reynolds' Deadpool, and I can't wait to see them tear the Marvel multiverse a new arsehole. But even if Deadpool and Wolverine is a reprehensible piece of shit on par with Batman and Robin or the first Suicide Squad, Logan will always be there for us when we need it.
I would find a way.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.